Commander Ellie Murphy stood at the large window of the Earth Defense Force headquarters, looking up at the night sky. Something had changed up there. The stars looked the same to most people, but not to her. She had spent too many years studying space to be fooled. "They're here," she said softly. Behind her, the command center buzzed with activity. Screens flashed with data, and officers spoke in urgent but controlled voices. They had been preparing for this day for years, but now that it had arrived, Ellie felt a cold knot in her stomach. Dr. Jack Grant hurried across the room, his glasses slightly crooked as usual. He carried a tablet that glowed with strange symbols. "Commander, you need to see this," he said, his voice tight with tension. Ellie turned from the window. At 42, she had spent half her life in the military. The last 10 years had been dedicated to the Earth Defense Force, created after scientists found the ruins on Mars. "Show me," she said. Jack pulled up a three-dimensional map of the solar system. 7 large red dots had appeared just beyond the orbit of Neptune. 7 ships? Ellie asked. 7 that we can detect, Jack replied. Each one is about the size of Manhattan. Our sensors indicate they're made of materials we've never seen before. They seem to absorb light rather than reflect it. Admiral Paul Carter joined them. His hair had gone completely white in the 3 years since he took command of Earth's United Military Forces. The stress of preparing for an alien invasion while keeping it secret from the public had taken its toll. "How long do we have?" he asked. Jack looked grim. At their current speed, 5 days until they reach Earth orbit. Ellie, Jack, and Paul knew things the rest of humanity didn't. 30 years ago, explorers had found ancient ruins on Mars. The ruins contained a warning, left by a civilization that had lived in our solar system millions of years ago. The warning spoke of aliens called the Voidborn, who moved through the galaxy conquering everything in their path. The ruins also contained fragments of advanced technology. Earth's best scientists had spent decades trying to understand this technology, hoping to use it to defend humanity when the Voidborn eventually arrived. That time had now come. "We need to tell the public," Ellie said. Paul nodded. "The president will make the announcement in 1 hour. God help us all." Just then, every screen in the command center went dark. A moment later, they came back on, but not with their normal displays. Instead, each screen showed the same image. A tall, thin being with pale skin that seemed almost transparent. Through its skin, they could see glowing blue veins. Its eyes were large and completely black. "People of Earth," the being said in perfect English, "I am Supreme Commander Zorax of the Voidborn Empire. Your planet has been chosen for incorporation into our domain." The room fell completely silent. "You are not the first civilization we have encountered. You will not be the last. 17 worlds have joined our empire. Some joined willingly. Others required persuasion." The alien's face showed no emotion, but there was a coldness in its voice that made Ellie shiver. "You have 7 Earth days to surrender. If you do so, we will allow a portion of your population to survive as servants. If you resist, you will be eliminated. There is no third option." The screens went dark again, then returned to their normal displays. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the room erupted in voices. "Silence!" Paul shouted, and the room immediately quieted. "We've prepared for this. Now we execute the plan. Dr. Grant, what's the status of Project Stardust?" Jack hesitated. "It's not ready. We still haven't solved the particle dispersion problem. If we try to use it now, we could end up destroying ourselves along with them." Ellie felt the weight of billions of lives on her shoulders. Project Stardust was Earth's best hope, a weapon based on the Martian technology that targeted the unique energy signatures of Voidborn ships. "How much more time do you need?" she asked. "With every scientist on Earth working on it, maybe 2 weeks." Paul's face hardened. "We have 7 days. Then we need to buy more time," Ellie said. "We need to make them think we're surrendering while we finish the weapon." The conversation was interrupted when Olivia Nelson, the lead engineer on Project Stardust, rushed into the room. Her usual calm demeanor was gone, replaced by barely controlled panic. "We detected a smaller ship breaking off from their fleet," she said. "It's heading toward Earth at high speed. It will be here in 12 hours. "An advanced scout," Paul said. "They're not waiting the full 7 days. They're coming to assess our defenses." Ellie made a quick decision. "Then let's give them something to see." Activate Defense Grid Alpha. Defense Grid Alpha wasn't Earth's real defense system. It was a decoy, designed to make aliens think they understood Earth's capabilities while hiding the real weapons. "Are you sure?" Paul asked. "Once they see it, we lose the element of surprise. If we don't show them something, they might launch a full attack immediately," Ellie replied. "This way, they see defenses that look impressive, but that their scans will show they can overcome. It might make them overconfident." Paul nodded and gave the order. Across the planet, massive installations that had been hidden for years came to life. They were impressive to look at, but designed to be easily detected by alien scans. The real defenses remained hidden deep underground and in orbit, disguised as ordinary satellites. As the preparations continued, Ellie returned to the window and looked up at the stars again. Somewhere up there, the aliens who called themselves the Voidborn were watching Earth, certain they would soon add another conquest to their empire. "You don't know humans very well," she whispered. "We don't surrender easily." Behind her, the command center transformed into a hive of focused activity. Scientists worked frantically to complete Project Stardust. Military personnel coordinated the positioning of real and decoy defenses. Communication officers prepared to coordinate Earth's united response to the threat. Ellie knew the odds were against them. The Voidborn had conquered 17 other worlds. They had technology far beyond Earth's understanding. They were coming with the full expectation of victory. But they didn't understand what they were facing. Humans had spent their entire history fighting. Against nature, against each other, against impossible odds. Now, for the first time, all of humanity would fight together. The aliens were certain of triumph. Ellie Murphy wasn't certain of anything, except this. Earth would not go quietly. And if Project Stardust worked as they hoped, the Voidborn would learn a painful lesson about underestimating humans. The alien scout ship entered Earth's atmosphere 12 hours later, just as Olivia had predicted. It was smaller than the main Voidborn vessels, but still impressive, about the size of a football stadium and shaped like a smooth black teardrop. It moved with impossible grace for something so large. Ellie watched from the command center as the ship hovered over the Atlantic Ocean, just outside New York's airspace. The world's media had their cameras trained on it. After the president's announcement 6 hours ago, panic had spread across the globe. Seeing the alien ship now made it all real. "What are they doing?" Admiral Carter asked, his voice tight. Dr. Grant studied the readings on his screen. "Scanning us. Their technology it's beyond anything I've ever seen. They're probably mapping our entire defense grid right now." "Good," Ellie said. "Let them see exactly what we want them to see." The fake defense grid was impressive. Missile silos, laser arrays, and electromagnetic pulse generators placed strategically around the planet. All of it was designed to look threatening, but ultimately be ineffective against the Voidborn technology. "They're broadcasting again," an officer called out. The screens flickered, and Supreme Commander Zorax appeared once more. This time, the alien looked slightly amused, if such an expression was possible on its strange face. "We have assessed your defenses," Zorax said calmly. "Your technology is primitive. Your weapons cannot harm our vessels. Your resistance is illogical." Paul leaned toward Ellie. "They took the bait. However," Zorax continued, "we admire your preparation. Few species have developed global defense systems before our arrival. As a gesture of respect, we extend your deadline. You now have 10 Earth days to arrange your surrender." The transmission ended. The command center erupted in cheers. 3 more days could make all the difference. "They're playing with us," Jack said quietly to Ellie. "Like a cat with a mouse." "Maybe," Ellie replied. "But cats sometimes get surprised." She turned to the gathered officers. "We have 10 days now. Let's make every minute count." In the underground laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains, Olivia Nelson worked without rest. Her team of the world's best scientists and engineers focused on solving the particle dispersion problem with Project Stardust. The technology they were developing would use Earth's ionosphere as a delivery system, transforming it into a weapon that could target the specific molecular structure of void-borne ships. Try adjusting the phase alignment, Olivia suggested to a young physicist. We need perfect synchronization, or the particles will destroy each other before reaching the target. The door opened and Ellie entered the lab. She looked exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes showed she'd been sleeping as little as everyone else. Progress? She asked simply. Olivia sighed. Some, but not enough. The math keeps showing the same problem. If we increase the particle density enough to affect their ships, it might also damage our atmosphere. Ellie walked to the large window that overlooked the testing chamber. Inside, a small model of the device pulsed with blue energy. What if we don't need to destroy all their ships? Ellie asked. What if we just need to damage them enough to force a retreat? Olivia considered this. A lower density might work, but it would have to be deployed at closer range. Their ships would need to be well within the atmosphere. Can you make that work? Olivia did some quick calculations on her tablet. Maybe. It would mean redesigning the distribution network, but her eyes widened. Yes, I think we can do it. For the first time in days, hope flickered across her face. Get it done, Ellie said. I'll worry about getting their ships close enough. Across the globe, humanity prepared for what might be their last stand. Civilians were evacuated to underground, shelters built during the Cold War, and expanded over the last decades as part of the secret preparation. Military forces took up positions around key installations, both the decoy defenses and the real ones hidden from alien scans. In the Mojave Desert, Kevin Wright led a team retrofitting conventional fighter jets with experimental technology based on the Martian ruins. The modifications wouldn't make the jets a match for void-borne ships, but they might distract the aliens long enough for Project Stardust to work. These won't last 5 minutes against them, a pilot said, inspecting her modified F-35. You don't need 5 minutes, Kevin replied. You just need to keep their attention and stay alive for 2. The pilot nodded grimly. Every fighter pilot on Earth knew this would likely be a suicide mission, but there had been no shortage of volunteers. 7 days after the scout ship's appearance, the main void-borne fleet entered Earth's orbit. 7 massive ships positioned themselves around the planet, casting shadows on the land below. Smaller vessels, hundreds of them, detached from the motherships and began descending through the atmosphere. In Geneva, world leaders gathered in the bunker beneath the United Nations building. The decision they faced was unimaginable just weeks ago: surrender and become servants, or fight and risk extinction. Project Stardust will be ready tomorrow, Paul reported via secure video link. But the Voidborn are deploying now. The Secretary General, a normally calm diplomat, slammed his fist on the table. Then we stick to the plan. Activate the conventional defenses, buy us time. Around the world, missile launches lit up the sky. Laser arrays fired concentrated beams of energy at the descending alien ships. Electromagnetic pulse generators activated, sending waves of disruptive energy into the atmosphere. It was humanity's first coordinated attack against the aliens, and it was completely ineffective. The void-borne ships absorbed or deflected everything thrown at them. Their return fire was devastating. Beams of energy that seemed to distort the very air around them struck Earth's defenses, reducing them to molten slag in seconds. In the command center, Ellie watched the first wave of defense fall. It was expected, part of the plan, but still horrifying to witness. First wave eliminated, an officer reported, her voice shaking. 87% casualties among forward defensive positions. Ellie closed her eyes briefly. Those were real people dying out there, but they were buying time with their lives. Time that Earth desperately needed. Commander, Jack called urgently. The Voidborn are transmitting again. Supreme Commander Zorax appeared on screen. For the first time, the alien looked angry. Your resistance is futile and now offensive, it said. We offered mercy. Now you will receive none. Tomorrow at dawn we will begin systematic elimination of your population centers. Your species had potential. That potential will now be wasted. The screen went dark. Dawn is 14 hours away, Paul said. How much more time does Olivia need? Jack checked his tablet. She says 12 hours minimum. Ellie took a deep breath. Then we need to delay them for 2 more hours after dawn. It's time for Phase 2. Phase 2 was the real defense. The weapons and tactics they had hidden from alien scans. It wouldn't defeat the Voidborn, but it might surprise them enough to buy those final crucial hours. As night fell across America, Ellie looked up at the stars, now obscured by the massive shapes of alien ships. Tomorrow would determine the fate of humanity, and despite everything, she smiled. The Voidborn were certain of triumph, but they didn't know what was coming. Dawn broke over a world that held its breath. The massive Voidborn ships hung in the sky like dark moons, their surfaces absorbing the morning light. Smaller vessels moved through the atmosphere, positioning themselves above major cities. In the Key Command Center, Ellie received reports from around the globe. Earth's hidden defenses were ready. Project Stardust still needed 8 more hours. They're starting, Jack said, pointing to the main screen. A Voidborn ship hovered over Beijing. A beam of energy shot from its underside, striking the center of the city. The destruction was immediate and total. A 6-block radius simply vanished, replaced by a smoking crater. Similar attacks began in other cities: Moscow, Cairo, Sydney. The Voidborn were making good on their promise of systematic elimination. Launch Phase 2, Ellie ordered, her voice steady despite the horror on the screens. Around the world, hidden bunkers opened. Special aircraft that had been shielded from alien scans took to the sky. These planes carried weapons designed using knowledge from the Martian ruins. Not enough to win the war, but hopefully enough to confuse the enemy. Major Ryan Cooper led the first squadron from a hidden base in the Appalachian Mountains. His 12 fighters streaked toward the Voidborn ship attacking Washington, D.C. Remember the plan, he told his pilots over the radio. Hit and run. Don't stay in one place. Use the special weapons only when you have a clear shot. The fighters were armed with missiles containing a substance that should, in theory, temporarily disrupt the alien ship's energy fields. The science was barely understood, but it was all they had. The squadron approached the Voidborn vessel, which was 3 times the size of an aircraft carrier. It seemed to notice them only at the last moment, as if it hadn't expected any resistance. Fire, Ryan ordered as they came within range. 12 missiles streaked toward the alien ship. Where conventional weapons had bounced off harmlessly, these new missiles penetrated the outer energy field. They didn't cause major damage, but they did create visible distortions in the ship's surface. The aliens responded immediately. Energy beams lashed out, catching 2 fighters and vaporizing them instantly. Evasive maneuvers, Ryan shouted, rolling his aircraft in a tight spiral. Don't stop moving. Similar battles erupted around the globe as humanity launched its surprise counterattack. The modified weapons couldn't destroy the Voidborn ships, but they could hurt them. It was like mosquitoes attacking an elephant. Annoying but not fatal. Yet the attacks had the desired effect. The aliens paused their bombardment of cities to deal with these unexpected threats. In the command center, Admiral Carter watched the battles unfold. It's working. They're focusing on our fighters instead of civilians. How long can our pilots keep this up? Ellie asked. Not long. They're taking heavy losses. The radio crackled with desperate voices as pilots reported their situations or went silent forever. Ryan Cooper's squadron was down to 5 aircraft, but they continued their hit-and-run attacks, drawing the Voidborn ship away from Washington. TC, we need more time, Jack said, checking the updates from Olivia's team. Stardust is being calibrated now, but rushing it could be catastrophic. Our pilots are buying that time with their lives, Ellie replied grimly. We owe it to them to make sure it's enough. She made a difficult decision. Launch the orbital platforms. These were Earth's last reserve, weapons platforms disguised as ordinary satellites. Once activated, they would reveal themselves to the aliens, but they might buy crucial additional time. In space, dozens of seemingly innocent weather and communication satellites suddenly transformed. Hidden panels opened, revealing energy weapons, based on the Martian technology. They began firing on the main Voidborn ships in orbit. Supreme Commander Zorax was furious. These humans were proving more troublesome than any species the Voidborn had encountered in centuries. Their first defensive grid had been pathetic, as expected, but these new weapons actually managed to penetrate Voidborn shields. "How is this possible?" Zorax demanded of its science officer. "Unknown, Commander. Their technology should not be capable of this. Destroy those orbital platforms immediately, then accelerate the elimination schedule. I want this planet's surface sterilized." By nightfall, the main Voidborn ships turned their attention to the orbital platforms, destroying them one by one. But this diversion, combined with the fighter attacks in the atmosphere, had accomplished its purpose. 3 precious hours had been gained in her laboratory. Olivia worked frantically to complete the calibrations for Project Stardust. The device now filled an entire chamber, glowing with blue-white energy that pulsed like a heartbeat. "The particle accelerator is at maximum," a technician reported. "We can't push it any harder without risking a meltdown." "We don't need to," Olivia replied. "This will work, it has to." She made the final adjustments and then called Ellie. "Stardust is ready, but there's a catch. We need the Voidborn ships to be lower in the atmosphere. The effect dissipates too quickly at high altitude." "How low?" Ellie asked. 10,000 feet or less. "And we need their main ships, not just the smaller vessels." Ellie thought quickly. The main Voidborn ships had stayed in orbit until now, sending only their smaller attack craft into the atmosphere. They needed to bait them into coming closer. "Send the submarine message," she ordered. This was the most desperate part of the plan. Hidden submarines around the world launched special missiles, not aimed at the Voidborn ships, but straight up into the empty sky. These missiles contained no explosives. Instead, they released clouds of particles designed to mimic the energy signature of the Martian technology. To the Voidborn sensors, it would appear that Earth had suddenly revealed massive weapon installations across the planet. It was a bluff, the last card humanity had to play. It worked. The Voidborn detected these apparent weapons and made exactly the decision Ellie had hoped for. "The main ships are descending," Jack reported, watching the tactical display. "All 7 of them. They're coming into the atmosphere." The massive alien vessels moved down through the clouds, positioning themselves to attack these new threats directly. They were now exactly where Earth needed them to be. "Prepare to activate Stardust," Ellie ordered. "Wait until all 7 ships are below 10,000 feet. Around the world, the remnants of Earth's fighters continued their desperate attacks, drawing the Voidborn's attention. Major Cooper's squadron was down to just 2 aircraft, his own and 1 other. They streaked across the sky above the eastern United States, pulling the alien ship after them. "Just a little bit lower," Ryan muttered as he executed a dangerous dive, his aircraft shuddering under the strain. The Voidborn ship followed, descending through the clouds in pursuit of these annoying humans who had dared to damage its perfect hull. In the command center, Ellie watched as the 7th and final Voidborn main ship dropped below 10,000 feet. "Now," she said quietly. Jack sent the signal to Olivia's lab. Project Stardust activated with a silent pulse of energy that spread through Earth's ionosphere. Nothing seemed to happen at first. There was no visible beam, no explosion, no dramatic effect. Then, a Voidborn ship in the sky above London began to shimmer strangely, as if its surface was becoming unstable. The real battle for Earth had begun. The Voidborn ship above London continued to shimmer, its black surface rippling like water. Small particles began to flake off, floating away in the wind. The effect spread slowly at first, then faster. In the command center, all eyes were fixed on the screen showing the alien vessels. "It's working," Jack whispered, almost afraid to say it out loud. Similar effects appeared on the other 6 main ships. Their perfect surfaces began to degrade as Project Stardust did its work. The weapon wasn't destroying the ships through force or heat. Instead, It was breaking the bonds between the very molecules that made up the alien vessels. On board the Voidborn command ship, Supreme Commander Zorax felt something it had never experienced before: fear. The ship's systems were failing in ways their technology couldn't explain. "What is happening?" Zorax demanded. "The humans have weaponized their atmosphere," a science officer reported, panic in its voice. "The particles are targeting our hull material specifically." "Impossible. Their technology is primitive. They cannot have developed such a weapon." But the evidence was undeniable. The ship's outer hull was dissolving, turning to dust that scattered in the wind. Interior systems were becoming exposed to Earth's atmosphere. "Retreat to orbit," Zorax ordered. The massive ships tried to rise, fighting against Earth's gravity with failing engines. 2 of them managed to gain altitude, climbing back toward space. The others struggled, their propulsion systems too damaged to escape. In Olivia's laboratory, scientists monitored Project Stardust's effects carefully. "The particle dispersion is stable," Olivia reported to Ellie over the video link. 2 ships are attempting to escape. Should we increase power?" "Do it," Ellie ordered. "We can't let any of them get away." Olivia adjusted the controls, pushing the system to its limits. The blue-white glow of the machine intensified, its hum rising to a painful pitch. Warning lights flashed across the control panels. "The system is overheating," a technician warned. "We can't maintain this level for long." "We don't need long," Olivia said. "Just long enough." In the sky, the effect on the Voidborn ships accelerated. The 2 vessels that had been climbing toward orbit suddenly stopped their ascent. Their sleek surfaces were now visibly crumbling away. Large chunks broke off, falling toward Earth like black snow. Major Ryan Cooper watched in amazement from the cockpit of his fighter. The alien ship he'd been attacking was coming apart before his eyes. "Are you seeing this?" he asked his remaining wingman. "I'm seeing it, but I don't believe it," came the reply. The ship above them was disintegrating, its once perfect form now riddled with holes. Strange blue energy leaked from within, dancing across the sky like lightning. In cities around the world, people emerged from shelters to watch the incredible sight. 7 massive alien ships, once so threatening, were now falling apart in the sky. It seemed impossible. Just hours ago, these vessels had been untouchable by Earth's most powerful weapons. Admiral Carter received updates from military posts worldwide. "All Voidborn ships are affected. None have escaped the atmosphere." "And the smaller vessels?" Ellie asked. "They're trying to return to the motherships, but they're caught in the same effect. They're all disintegrating." On the main screen, they watched as one of the largest Voidborn ships lost structural integrity completely. It broke into thousands of pieces, most of which continued to dissolve into fine dust as they fell. What had once been a vessel larger than Manhattan was now nothing more than dark particles scattered across the sky. One by one, the other ships followed. Their advanced technology, their seemingly invincible weapons, their perfect hulls, all reduced to dust by Project Stardust. In her laboratory, Olivia watched the monitors with tears in her eyes. Years of work, countless sleepless nights, the combined efforts of the world's greatest minds. It had all led to this moment. "Power levels dropping," a technician reported. "We're losing the particle accelerator. It doesn't matter now," Olivia said softly. "We've done enough." On board the Voidborn command ship, chaos reigned. Systems failed in cascading sequences as the hull continued to dissolve. Emergency fields tried to contain the damage but failed, as their generators succumbed to the same molecular breakdown. Zorax stood on the bridge watching as the ship died around him. The Voidborn had conquered 17 worlds they had never known defeat. Their technology had always been superior. Until now. "Send the warning," Zorax ordered its communication officer. "Tell the Empire what happened here. Tell them about the humans." But it was too late. The communication systems had already failed. No message would reach the Voidborn Empire. No warning about the dangerous species on the 3rd planet of this unremarkable solar system. As the command ship broke apart, Zorax had one final thought. They had greatly underestimated these humans. In the skies above Earth, the last of the voidborn fleet dissolved into dust. Dark particles floated down through the atmosphere carried by winds across the planet. What had once been the most advanced fleet in this sector of the galaxy was now nothing more than ash. In the command center, exhausted officers and technicians began to cheer. The sound started softly, then grew into a roar that echoed through the room. People hugged each other, laughed, cried. After years of preparation and days of desperate fighting, humanity had survived. Ellie didn't join the celebration immediately. She stood before the main screen, watching the radar as it showed the skies clearing of alien ships. She thought of all those who had died in the battle, the pilots, the soldiers at the decoy installations, the civilians in cities that had been attacked. Jack approached her, his face showing both joy and disbelief. "We did it," he said simply. "We did," Ellie replied. "But at what cost?" "A heavy one, but the alternative would have been extinction." Paul joined them, leaning heavily on his cane. The old admiral looked 10 years older than he had a week ago, but there was pride in his eyes. "Initial reports suggest we lost nearly 30% of our fighter pilots," he said, "and 5 major cities suffered significant damage. But we stopped them. We actually stopped them." "What happens now?" Jack asked. Ellie looked at the screens showing cities around the world. In some, people were already starting to clean up the damage. In others, they were simply standing in streets and parks looking up at skies that were once again their own. "Now we rebuild," she said, "and we prepare." "Prepare?" Jack asked. "You think there will be more of them?" "The Voidborn conquered 17 worlds before they came here. They must have an empire, a home world. Sooner or later they'll wonder, what happened to this fleet?" Paul nodded gravely. "And when they come looking, we need to be ready." "We will be," Ellie said with quiet determination. "We know their technology now. We know their weaknesses. Next time, Earth won't just defend itself. We'll take the fight to them." As night fell across the planet, the dark particles that had once been the Voidborn fleet continued to drift through the atmosphere. They caught the last rays of the setting sun, turning from black to gold for a brief moment, a reminder of humanity's first victory among the stars. 6 months after the Voidborn attack, Earth was changing. The dark dust that had once been alien ships had settled across the planet. Scientists collected it carefully, studying the strange materials that made up the Voidborn vessels. Commander Ellie Murphy stood on the observation deck of the new Global Defense Headquarters in Geneva. The building had been constructed on the ruins of the old United Nations complex, a symbol of humanity's new unity. Where once nations had argued and competed, now they worked together with a common purpose. "Beautiful view," Jack Grant said, joining her by the window. The scientist looked healthier than he had during the crisis, though he still worked long hours in the lab. "It is," Ellie agreed, looking out at the rebuilt city. Geneva had been spared direct attack, but the weeks after the invasion had been chaotic everywhere. "The recovery is going well," Jack said. "Better than anyone expected." It was true. The destruction of 5 major cities had been devastating, but it had also brought humanity together in unprecedented ways. Countries that had been enemies for generations now shared resources and technology. The threat from beyond the stars had changed everything. "How is the research going?" Ellie asked. Jack smiled proudly. "We've made more progress in 6 months than we did in 30 years studying the Martian ruins. The Voidborn materials are incredible. We're beginning to understand how their ships worked, how they traveled between stars." "And the communications?" Jack's expression grew more serious. "That's why I came to find you. We've decoded more of their transmissions from before the attack. The Voidborn Empire is vast, hundreds of worlds across multiple star systems. Earth wasn't even considered an important target. We were just a small outpost on their expansion route." Ellie felt a chill. "So there will be more coming. Eventually, but not soon." According to their communications protocols, they wouldn't expect to hear from this fleet for at least 5 Earth years. That's how long their campaigns usually last. So we have time. Yes, and we're using it well. In the months since the invasion, Project Stardust had evolved from a desperate last resort into the foundation of Earth's new defense strategy. Olivia Nelson now led the largest scientific research team in history, working to refine the technology and develop new applications. Admiral Carter wants to see us, Jack said. He's in the Situation Room. They walked through the headquarters, passing military personnel and scientists from dozens of countries. The old divisions of nationality, religion, and ideology had faded in importance. Humanity now defined itself not by its differences but by what it shared, the will to survive and thrive in a universe that had suddenly become much more dangerous. In the Situation Room, Admiral Paul Carter was reviewing plans with Major Ryan Cooper. The young pilot had become a worldwide hero after the battle, one of the few squadron leaders to survive the desperate attacks on the Voidborn ships. There you are, Paul said, looking up as they entered. We've made a decision about the Mars base. The establishment of a permanent base on Mars had been debated for months. Some argued it was too expensive when Earth was still rebuilding. Others insisted it was essential for humanity's future. We're going ahead with it, Paul continued. Construction begins next month. Ryan here will be in charge of security. The pilot nodded at Ellie and Jack. We've found a site near the main ruins. The thinking is that if there's more technology to be discovered, that's where we'll find it. And what about the Venus probe? Ellie asked. The space program had been rapidly expanded, with missions planned to every planet in the solar system. Launching next week, Paul replied. The new engines based on Voidborn technology cut the travel time in half. Jack couldn't hide his excitement. The rate we're advancing it's unprecedented. In just 6 months, we've made leaps that would have taken decades before. Necessity, Paul said simply. There's nothing like an existential threat to focus the mind. A young officer entered the room and handed Paul a tablet. The Admiral read it quickly, then looked up with a grim expression. The Deep Space Telescope network just picked up something at the edge of the solar system, he said. It's not Voidborn. The energy signature is completely different, but it's definitely artificial. Ellie felt her heart rate increase. Another alien species? Looks that way. It's just one ship, much smaller than the Voidborn vessels. And it's not approaching directly. It's keeping its distance like it's observing. Jack took the tablet and studied the readings. This is fascinating. The energy output suggests a completely different technology base than the Voidborn. It might even be more advanced. Hostile? Ryan asked, the fighter pilot in him immediately assessing the threat. No way to know yet, Paul replied. But we're not taking chances. I've ordered the orbital defense platforms to tracking status. If it makes any move toward Earth, we'll be ready. Ellie walked to the large window that overlooked the city. Somewhere far beyond the blue sky, another alien ship was watching Earth. Were they curious? Afraid? Hostile? It was impossible to know. Should we try to communicate with them? She asked. Already working on it, Jack said. We're sending basic mathematical sequences, prime numbers, the value of pi, things that should be universal. And if they respond, then we make first contact, but this time, we do it from a position of strength. 6 months ago, the appearance of an alien ship had been humanity's greatest fear. Now it was an opportunity. Earth had faced extinction and survived. It had taken the Voidborn's certain triumph and turned it to dust. Whatever came next, humanity would face it united and prepared. In her office, Olivia Nelson worked with her team on the next generation of Project Stardust. The technology that had saved Earth was being refined, made more efficient and adaptable. If these new aliens were peaceful, humanity would welcome them. If they were hostile, Earth would be ready. In orbit, the first of Earth's new defense ships, prepared for its maiden voyage. Based partly on Voidborn technology but distinctly human in design, the USS Unity represented humanity's first true step into the stellar community. Its mission was to investigate the mysterious observer at the edge of the solar system. Captain Samantha Reeves looked out from the bridge at the Earth below. Raised in one of the cities destroyed by the Voidborn, she had volunteered immediately when the Space Defense Force was formed. "All systems ready," her first officer reported. "We can depart whenever you give the order." Samantha took a deep breath. This was more than just Earth's first interplanetary military vessel. It was a statement to the galaxy. Humanity would not hide on its home planet, waiting for the next invasion. It would reach out into the stars, establishing its presence and protecting its future. "Take us out," she ordered. "Let's go introduce ourselves to the neighbors." As the ship moved away from Earth, it passed through a cloud of dark particles, the last remains of the Voidborn fleet, still drifting in high orbit. A reminder of the day when aliens had been certain of triumph, until Earth turned their fleet to dust. The USS Unity accelerated toward the edge of the solar system, carrying with it humanity's determination to never again be the helpless victim of an alien invasion. The stars awaited, and Earth was ready to claim its place among them. The end.